they'll take a little less heat for that than going out with, say, the 10th overall pick if they finish under 500 or right at 500 and take a guy like Robert Griffin or any of the quarterbacks that we think are going to go in the first round.
I don't think they should.
You don't think take a quarterback, period? And then what do you do with your other 2 quarterback slots behind a guy like Tebow?
There's a thing called free agency, and as I said, pick up a guy like Thigpen, even another guy like Orton if you can get a cheap price on him. Just a good career backup type guy that can come in and close the wound and then you can run the ball 55 times a game with even a more capable quarterback. I just don't think it's worth using a pick on a young guy when then you might kind of handcuff yourself. Use it on something. Get a wide receiver. Get a position that you can plug in and use right away. I guess I don't think the Broncos are good enough that they have the flexibility to start drafting guys and just letting them sit on their bench just in case our first-round quarterback 1 year removed.
I'm not saying they are either, but I don't think it's even in their minds the scenario that they won't take a quarterback this year. I would be willing to bet anything that they will take a quarterback at some point, even in the first 4 rounds of next year's draft. I just don't see that John Elway and John Fox haven't come out and put that huge support behind Tim Tebow publicly that any other organization would have done given his success this season. And I think that to me is a very telling story that they're not necessarily sold on him yet. And I think even at the end of the season, even if they go 9-7 and make the playoffs in a bad division, they're still going to be looking for maybe that next quarterback if he doesn't work out. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that they're not sold on him. Not that everybody else isn't, but I think they are.
With that, I think it's time to move on to something new with 18 minutes to go. If anybody would love to call in and voice their opinion on the whole Tim Tebow matter, please feel free. 303-273-3304. 3304, right? Yeah. 303. Yeah, whatever. No, that's cool. I kind of brain farted on the number, but I guess with that, we'll go on. We'll come back to the NFL if we get time. We might have some TiVo action here before we can move away. Let's just fit it. Let's do our 64 seconds on the UFC talk right before we open up the phone lines real quick. Yes,
I will give you the 3, 2, 1, and then timer starting. All right. Counting down. UFC talk. Velasquez
Dos Santos on Fox. 5.4 million people. 64-second fight. We're really looking forward to it. Watched it over the boxing match with Pacquiao, which was much more fun, but Dos Santos just killed him. I mean, Velasquez was undefeated, heavyweight champ. All the prep was that he's the guy. He just got killed.
Yeah, and I think the thing that was more interesting to me was that the whole business behind the UFC. I really like what Dana White does. He's got him moving up, getting big network deals, and I think it was kind of a huge buzzkill for them to get this big Saturday night primetime spot on Fox, and then the fight barely lasts a minute.
It's good. I mean,
but if you're a UFC fan, you're kind of used to that thing.
So that's the one thing about UFC that I kind of like. At least you get a chance to see knockout, and I mean that's what fighting is. You get to see somebody just absolutely get the piss kicked out of him. It's kind of fun to watch. And that's our 64 seconds on the Velasquez Dos Santos UFC Fight Night on Fox. So with that, we'll open up the phone lines once again. I'm guessing we might have a little more Tebow talk. Riley from Winona, what's on your mind, Riley?
Hey, Sam. I just acquired Eric Decker through trade, and you guys talking about Tim Tebow on him only having 2 or 3 completions last week. What do you think about Decker in fantasy now?
Well, I actually kind of like Decker. He's the only option for the Broncos, really. They don't use Royal at all. Thanks for the call, Riley. Hopefully we didn't cut you off. It sounded, yeah, no, I know. That was kind of a collective hang up. Yeah. No, I think that was his full question. He'll call back if he's got more, but you got to, as far as Broncos receiving options go, Us Minnesotans have seen Decker for a while, and the Broncos got an absolute steal in the draft when they picked him. I think it was the 5th round. 3rd round, even still. After the injury, it was a perfect buy low scenario, and it's really working out for the Broncos right now. Great special teams player as well. So he hasn't even. They have Quan Cosby back there.
Well,
for some reason
he took that punt back against Oakland in Week 1, and since then he hasn't been back there. I think the more that they see him evolving as a big play receiver, they trying to keep him away from punt returns, but I completely agree. I think we've kind of seen Eddie Royal evolve with this option offense into a kind of scat back, jet sweep kind of guy, and with that being said, the Broncos don't have a tight end worth throwing to at this point. They've been giving Dante Rosario more targets than Julius Thomas, who was their touted, I think, 5th round pick, was supposed to be the next Antonio Gates. I think he's still adjusting to football, I guess you'd say. But yeah, no, if Tebow's going to complete 4 passes a game, odds are 2 of them are going to be to Decker, and with the way they run the ball, odds are both of them are going to be down the field. So I definitely like him as a fantasy option.
And when you look at the schedule, they have the Jets this week, so probably a tough matchup as he might draw Revis for most of that. But then at San Diego, against the Vikings, who have a depleted secondary, against the Bears, which could be a little tough there, but then New England again with another terrible secondary. So a couple really good matchups defensively as far as it goes for Decker, as well as the rest of the Bronco passing offense.
Quickly, before we open up the phone lines, if I told you I guess I kind of just gave it away, but there's only one person in the NFL with more receiving touchdowns than Eric Decker. That's Calvin Johnson. Fun fact.
Very fun fact. With that, we'll open up the phone lines, and the Orediggers lost last weekend in Nebraska against the University of Nebraska-Kearney, effectively ending their season with giving them 3 losses on the year, so pretty much knocking them out of the polls. So we will welcome a call from that region. We have Ernie from Kearney. Ernie, how's it going?
Hey, fellas, great show. I was just curious to ask you if your season's over after Saturday's shellacking.
I think so, Ernie. It was a tough game, and they were 10th in the regional rankings. They needed to be top 6, so with a loss, they're certainly not going to move up, and that pretty much does it for them. Were you able to watch any of the game, Ernie?
No, I had to listen to it on the radio.
Thanks a lot for the call, Ernie. And
well, obviously, if he was listening to it on the radio, he wasn't hearing the RMAC's best crew, the voice of the Orediggers, as we did not travel to the less than beautiful town of Kearney, Nebraska to cover that ball game. But sad to say, Orediggers came in 10th in the region. They needed to be 6th at the end of the season or higher to qualify for the D2 playoffs, and losing to number 2 in the region, Nebraska-Kearney, I think number 6 nationally they were ranked, definitely didn't help their case. But a pretty successful season for them, considering the guys that they lost. They lost Rankin, losing Scheichel, and names are escaping me. I think Sumner and Anderson, the other 2 guys on that defensive line. Certainly you expected a little bit of a letdown, and that's what we saw. I guess they let that Highlands game slip away, which I think, looking back, was probably the one that they thought they probably could have taken and maybe helped their standings a little bit at the end there.
Certainly let that one slip away. That was the game at home, I believe, right? Yeah, that was a very tough game, and it's too bad. But since we're on the Orediggers, we might as well we got 10 minutes left in the show, might as well quickly give our preview of Orediger basketball. Season starts this Friday. All home games can be heard here on Mines Internet Radio at radio.mines.edu. We'll be doing women's as well as men's basketball games this Friday. Women's tip off at, I believe, 6 o'clock, and then men's following immediately after that. Same times on Saturday as well. That's pretty much the schedule all season. They have the Friday-Saturday doubleheaders here on Mines Internet Radio. Great season for the Orediggers last year. They won the RMAC regular season title and then lost in the championship of the RMAC shootout down in Puebla, I believe, was it? Yep, on the fairgrounds. That game could be heard on Mines Internet Radio. We were able to travel down there and do that game. And
you like how I put that in the bio, huh? We were writing up the webpage. Finally getting high tech here at Mines Internet Radio.
Very nice. A couple big losses for... Well, I would say a couple big
gains.
Armstrong is